Lego.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for hitting that play button for another episode of the Heady Coleman Podcast, where I sit down with fabulous people to have go-in conversations. Now, go-in is being consistent and doing the right things that allow for you to achieve the wins that you have defined for your life or organization, so that you can live out your greatest story. It's all about that story, ladies and gentlemen. It's all about your story. And I think your story is so much better when you have defined some wins to create journeys for yourself. So when I sit down with these fabulous people, I like the opportunity that it gives you to discover maybe some right things that you need to be consistent in order to achieve maybe a similar win that you've defined for yourself. Today's a little bit different in the sense I'm sitting down with my dear friend, my family, the one and only. We go way back. None other than Derrick, Sier. I can't say my own name sometimes, so I'm always messing up a name.
It's okay. I can't think of how many times you've ever used my last name though. So it makes sense that you like. What's my cell phone number?
I don't know what your cell.
And you use that. We use that a lot. Right?
Yeah.
I don't like some people that I see. Like I'm like, hey, like I know you and I see you. Like don't trip on the name. I'm sorry.
But I think what it is that people say your name to me, and they say it wrong.
They do. They make you doubt yourself.
Yeah.
Like, that's my friend.
That's my friend. And I feel that's my man. And I'm like, I don't even know. We're okay. I don't even know. So sit down. Thanks for being here, man.
Yeah, man.
Thanks for walking up to the third floor.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Thanks for the invite. Listen, I can't think of too many times you've invited me and I said no.
No, it hasn't been very many.
Yeah, I appreciate it. You know, I was thinking about, as we were just saying that interview on the Breakfast Club with Martin and Martin Lawrence and Will Smith. And Martin said something about his kids or something, and Will Smith, he like forgot his kid's name or something like that. And people was like, yo, like, that's your man. Like, y'all here kicking. And he was like, I know, man, but, you know, I mean, we cool and we close, but we don't kick it like every day. So when it's all love, I just forgot. Like y'all try to make us enemies up here at the Breakfast Club.
Yeah.
Everybody calm down.
Yeah. People try to make controversy out of anything.
They do.
And I don't know why that is. Is that just because we don't have enough what's the word I'm looking for? Things that are productive in our lives. You know what I'm saying? Like, man, I'm just trying to find whatever I can to talk about because I don't have a whole bunch of other productive things to talk about. Yeah. What is it that draws us to?
I think part of it is like to me, it feels like people have, like, they don't want to be the worst. Mm-hmm. At least I'm not last. Right? And if I can always find somebody else that is fatter than me, making less money than me, stumbling over their words, embarrassing. Like, if I can find somebody, then it lets me know that as bad as I think that I am, I'm not the worst.
Yeah.
And so my relationship sucks, but yours is worse. Mm-hmm. You know, my job sucks, but yours is worse. And I think it probably has less to do about other people than it has to do with the person that is interested in the thing. Right? And so I don't know. Like, as I think about it, the more I think about it, I just think that people want to know that they're not last or the least or the worst. And it just happens that I have to compare myself to other people.
Yeah. No, I think so. I just think that it's interesting that we are people who will go to something so quick and make such a big deal out of something that's not, and it causes so much of a stir up. And it's like, that wasn't even that big of a deal to me. But maybe. And then again, something could be a bigger deal to one person than it is to another.
People have their things, and you know, I think it got to be up to us to be self-aware and humble ourselves, right? Because it's like I can't be a fan of everything, right? I just got my select things, and so while I'm tripping over, I don't know, Will slapping Chris, right, I still got my own stuff. And so maybe it just helps to detach from my own stuff and focus on somebody else's for a little bit. You know, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I just toggle back and forth between, you know, being the dude who watches fight videos, but also being disappointed because people are fighting in the videos. You know, it's like, dang, I just gave them another view, but I was entertained. Like, I got to unplug from my real fight videos in my own life for a little bit and see somebody else struggle. I don't know. I think it's just it's human, unfortunately, to want to reference where you are by using other people as the reference point, whether it's money or marriage or parenting or whatever it is. It's just like, I feel like I'm doing a horrible job or a great job, but in order to establish whether or not I'm doing good or bad, let me look at other people and see what they're doing.
Yeah.
And just out of that, we offer our opinions.
For sure. Well, man, hey, before we jump into what we're going to talk about today, just talking about a little bit of fatherhood, talking about you as a father, talking about your father a little bit. Yeah. Tell people where they can find you on social media if that's the best way to reach out to you.
Yeah, Derrick Sier, Sier, Sier55. It's going to be OMOS, OMOS, just a variety of all those, whether it's on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, website, mylifeofliz.com, derricksier.com. Like, you can just find
all of that.
Just look it up, man.
Do you have a link tree?
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
You're always telling me about something new.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking about when you ran off all those things. Like,
what is that? What's a link tree?
A link tree is kind of where it's all your links in one place.
Here's the thing, though. I don't even know that I engage people that much anymore, because I used to be like a social media bandit. Like, I was on there all the time. I think the more that I've started to be a little bit more introspective, then I pulled back from social media a bit. And so, like, I throw all those things out there, but they're not like the best connection points right now. Really, like, I'm just connecting with people who have my cell phone number and my email. Like, those people are the ones that get all my attention, where it used to be, like, for example, and I don't want to squirrel, but I was talking to Takia yesterday, and I think I posted something that yesterday or the day before that I hadn't posted in a while, and I was just like, yo, I sent this picture to a friend that was like, yo, I haven't seen your face in a while, like, send me a pic. And so I was having coffee, agriculture coffee, and on the east side of Oklahoma City, and I was just sitting outside, and I just took this pic while I was sitting there looking at my phone, and I shared it with a couple of people, and they was like, yo, that's like a very distinguished picture. And I was like, really? And they were like, yeah. And so I put it on social media. I was like, hey, sent this to a friend, hadn't seen my face in a long time. These are some thoughts that I have. And so Takia's like, who do you know that can put a picture out with a few words and get like 600 likes? Uh-oh, what just happened?
I don't know what just happened.
Beep, beep, beep.
That's you.
Is that me? Is your camera low? Is it still recording? Yeah. Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, like who can put out a picture out, and get that type of response? And I was like, it's unpredictable. But had this been a few years ago, I'd have been on that joint, like, responding to everybody, and trying to, like, text the people who liked the picture or commented that I hadn't seen in a long time, and I'm just trying to, like, catch up. But when you catch up with people, like, there's no like, hey, well, that's cool. It's like, yo, we should grab coffee, and then I got 100 coffees that I'm trying to schedule over the next 60 days, and like, I think I've just pulled back. So I threw all those social medias out there. That's a way for people to kind of see what's popping and to reach out and say what's up, but I don't really connect as much.
Yes, social media is definitely a thing that, like, it's a tool for me, like, and you want to use it disparagingly, should I say, but it's also a great way to connect. In that instance of what you just did, that was a very personal way to, connect with people, and I think in that people find it interesting. Like, social media is a way that people kind of get away from those. Like, you just talked about looking at the fight. Like, people use social media to get away, maybe from some of the realities of the world, but also to see people that they haven't seen in a while. Yeah. And I think the less you post on there, there's even more of that thing of like, man, I ain't seen Derrick. What's Derrick talking about?
Agreed.
Like, let me pause for a minute, because I'm not up on Derrick as much as I am on some of the other people, and so
truth.
Yeah. So no, it's good.
And I told you, I was like I posted, and if I posted something tomorrow, like, let's just say that 500 likes was the benchmark. Tomorrow I get 450, and then the day after I get 400, and then in 2 weeks when I'm posting regularly, then I'm back around to 100, 150 engagement. So it's like, I'm not confused on what happened. When I posted, it's like, oh, I haven't been out here in a while, so people saying what's up, like, oh yeah, that's what's up. Because I do the same thing. In fact, I even go to like, not only am I gonna like and leave a comment, then I'm gonna hit you in the inbox like, yo, bro, I haven't seen you in a while. You know, hope everything well. You know, thinking about you and the family, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So I ain't tripping on the numbers. I think it's just, I said all that to say, I put all those social medias out there. If you reach out,
let's connect.
like you can, but don't be discouraged if I delay in my response.
For sure, because I'm just not on there right now.
I'm just not on there that much anymore.
Don't be offended.
Don't be offended, but reach out, please. But reach out,
because you would like to hear from him.
Yep, I think I'll reach out to Will Smith. I read his book.
Oh, did you really?
Finished the whole book. He had some nuggets in there that completely changed my perspective, bro.
Really?
Yeah.
Like around what?
Yeah, like I'm trying not to go too deep. So one, he talked about when he was younger, his grandmother would go to church, and he just remembered being in church, being on stage, singing and performing and doing things like that. And whenever he looked out, whether it was at home or from the stage, he just saw this look on his grandmother's face that no matter what he did, it was always going to be good. No matter what he did, she was always going to be proud of him, that there was always like this road of like retribution and reconciliation. Like there was nothing, like he was good enough for grandma, no matter, like he didn't have to be funny or talented or athletic. He could just show up and grandma loved him. And he said he spent his whole life chasing that look from specifically women. But I would also add in people. And so for me, you know, I think my dad looked at me a certain way, and I've wanted that relationship with older men in my life, and my mom didn't necessarily look at me that way. And so wanting that relationship from, or that engagement, or that approval from women as well, right? And so just going back to childhood as Will did, thinking about what are some things in my childhood that I either got and so I'm used to getting, or that I lacked and so I'm overly pursuing those things, whether it be attention or approval or being liked or money or clothes or experiences or freedom from whatever it is. Like those things that get locked in our brains based on our experiences as kids, as youth, how they impact our decisions as adults, but we don't necessarily take the time to reflect on why we do it. We just know that it's ingrained in us very deeply, right? From the way that we eat, to the shows that we watch, to our humor, to the music we enjoy, to the cars we drive, to our perspective on community and voting and education. Like all that stuff is locked in, and it's impacted by some very foundational and fundamental things that happened when we were younger, right? If I grew up in a school that was poor, then either I'm going to make sure that my kids never go to a school that doesn't have resources, or I have a heart that breaks for schools without resources, right? That impacts us as adults. And we can go example after example, but just reading the book, that was one of the things that stood out to me, how even as a young person, the way that his grandmother looked at him impacted the way that he interacted with women his whole life.
Wow. It just came out, didn't it?
I don't know. It's been out.
Because I saw a video. Was it a memoir or whatever?
What do they call those? It's not like a autobiography or nothing.
Yeah.
It may have been closer to a memoir.
Yeah, now we're talking about fatherhood. Will's a father.
He is.
You kind of mentioned that the slap. Like as a father, like how did that make you? How would that make you feel regarding your children? Like, do you see anything out of that from him being a father in the way that that set a precedent for his children or anything like that?
Yeah. I think you'd have to extrapolate. Like you'd have to pull out a few different things and isolate them, which I think is unfair to everybody that wants to lump it all together. But I think it's absolutely fair to Will and his family, right? So as a father, you saw me stand up for your mother. As a father, you saw me stand up for your mother. While if I had another choice, would I have stood up for her in that particular way? Maybe not. But you saw me stand up for your mother, right? As a man, right, to my son and to my daughter, like there's a sense of protection. The other thing I think is I I wish there would have been a way to address it without violence, especially physical violence. And then there's the element of like black on black, things that I tried to establish not only with my kids but with my mentees as well. And then there's the part of conflict resolution that instead of doing something that ended it, we did something that exacerbated it. It just made it bigger, right? Now we're talking about how do we reconcile between two people, not only for the people, but for their families and for the country at large. Because these are, what I'm saying? So like as a father, I'm looking at what is it like for them to see that I care enough about this family to stand up and do something. While I may not have done the right thing, I did something. And so on that end, I was a protector. But then how does it reflect towards conflict resolution? Am I telling my kids that it's okay to use physical violence before exploring other opportunities? Does it have to do with my pride and embarrassment? And what happens when I make decisions based out of pride and embarrassment? Is there a way to handle things behind closed doors versus a public platform? It teaches them about consequences to decisions, right? You can do those things in the moment, but understand the backlash of it. So we're losing movies, you losing support and sponsorships and all these different. So I think from a dad, there's all these different things that come from it. But at the end of the day, I want my children to understand that it's your decision, and just know that your decision isn't isolated in a moment. Right? You can feel like that's the best thing you could come up with in the moment, but just be prepared to answer or to stand up for and with the consequences of any decision you make, whether it's good or bad.
Yeah. So I think I hear you saying like the opportunities that his kids can learn from him in that particular moment was one, they can see the protect, like learn to protect whoever that is that you love,
right,
that's in your life. There may become times where you got to protect them. Another thing would be, sometimes you may have to apologize. Like maybe sometimes you make a decision, you feel like it's the right thing to do. You look back, you like that was not the right thing to do. So your kids now can learn that it's important to go back and apologize, ask for forgiveness, make some decisions to hold yourself accountable from those things. And I think that's a lot of what being a father is like setting the example for your kids, because one day they're going to parent.
Yeah.
And so your daughters, your sons, or whatever, what are some things that you learned from your dad?
Ooh, work ethic, man. I know that's something that James Sier was not afraid to do, was work. And one thing we were going to do, we was going to eat. We was going to have a roof over our head. We was going to have clean clothes. We was going to make it from A to B. And all the other stuff was like, we'll get to it. Like we're going to eat. I even remember learning how to heat a house with our oven. You know what I'm saying? We putting blankets up, trying to isolate. So I think Dad, he was not afraid to work. And good or bad, that's something that he taught me, and I've held on to it, even at the ripe age of 40. Like, Derrick gonna work.
Yeah.
He gonna have multiple jobs. I told my wife early on, I was like, I don't know what it is, but I've just been blessed to make money. Like, I'll go make it, So I got that from Dad. Being other focused, community minded, got that from Dad. Dad was very much so in mentoring. We always had kids at our homes. He was always coaching a sport, driving a bus, volunteering at the church. Like, he was always one of those dudes that was going to take a group of kids camping. He was all about new experiences and exposure to things. He was fun. He was humorous. Dad was also very charismatic. And so I get that from my father, being able to walk into a room and dial it up or dial it back depending on what's necessary. Dad is very much so a family person, and it doesn't look necessarily traditionally like a family person. Like, I know a lot of times when people think of family, they think of like everybody sitting around the table, having dinner, and Dad being tapped in and glued into a lot of stuff. So Dad loved his family. I love my family. I love my siblings. I love my kids, even though it looks a little differently. Definitely very family centered. So those are 3 or 4 things that Dad taught that stick with me.
So he was consistent in doing those things. He's consistent in working, consistent in investing in others, investing in the community.
Yeah.
And out of those things, in his family, consistent in doing those things. Consistent in being mindful of the people that he's around. When you talk about him walking in the room, knowing how to dial it back, or being charismatic, whatever the case may be. I sent out a question to a group of fathers, and one of the things we go back to this go win idea is like, what are those right things to be consistent in order to achieve the win that you've defined for your life? As a father, the win is to be the best father that you possibly can be. And so I sent this list out to a few fathers. Before we get to some of their responses, talk about, I hear what you said, you learned from your dad. I'm sure that you've taken some of those into your role as a father. What are some things, give us a couple of things that you're consistent at that you feel like allows for you to be a great father that maybe you learned from your dad, or that you kind of picked up on your own, because we do that as well, right?
Yeah, I'd say one, and I don't have these like pre-numbered. I think there's probably 3 or 4 core things that if you ask my kids, what do you take from your dad? I think they're probably going to say, just being inclusive, right? Like I want, my house was the house that all the kids were in, and so being part of being inclusive is being willing to entertain and absorb and provide room for a variety of things, right? And so my Nia and Ethan, my kids' friends, are very eclectic, right? From faith to socioeconomic status to family structure to gender to sexuality to academic and professional ambition to the arts and athletes. Like, it's just very diverse. And in order to create an environment where those people can come and be heard and seen and felt and valued, creating this environment where people don't have to be afraid or fear, I think is very important. That's something that my kids, I think they would say, anybody can come around my dad, and he knows how to interact with anybody. That's one. I think another one is have fun. Not to say that mom doesn't have fun, but I think mom carries this mantle of like keeping the family organized and making sure everyone is doing what they're supposed to do. Like, she's the nuts and bolts of the family, which allows me to be a little bit more non-structured, or I get to be icing and gravy and sprinkles on top of whatever else mom is doing, and I think it's really cool. So have fun. I think being consistent is really important with kids. Showing up is very important with kids. So them being able to look across any room that they're in and see the support system there. So whether it's a soccer field or an auditorium or whatever it is, they can look across the room and see dad there. Being able to be generous with my time and money and ideas, and so those are some of the things that I think I do well. I'm consistent in when being a good father.
That's good. Do you one of the things that I like to do is ask my kids. One of the things that I feel like I'm pretty decent at being consistent at is asking my kids, hey, as a father, what do you think I'm missing out? And in that, what I find out is that I'll probably learn more about what I'm consistent at that they feel really good about. Like, right. Dad, because you do these things, and not so much about the things that they feel like I'm not doing.
That's
right.
really important.
And I think it's so important to ask the people that you're fathering, like, evaluate me, because I think you learn from that.
And I think one of the reasons that's so important by just asking people is because sometimes what we are trying to do or what we aim to do doesn't translate well, right? And so a kid may see their parent as being too strict, but what I'm trying to do is protect you, right? And so I'm trying to get you to see that it's protection and guidance and experience, but all you see is I'm too stringent. I'm too strict, right? I don't let you have any fun. I don't ever want you to hang out with your friends. I don't like your friends. But so sometimes I think when we ask, then it's like, yo, like, what am I good at? Or what do you need? They'll let us know. Because if you say I don't do what I claim I do a lot of, then there's a disconnect there, right? If I give you lots of clothes and I give you video games and I give you a car and you say that I'm cheap because you're looking for cash and not necessarily the gifts, I'm like, what do you mean cheap? You know what I'm saying? We got this house, we got these clothes, I pay for you to do all these cool things. What do you mean I'm cheap? And they're like, but Dad, you don't give us money. And it's like, oh, you want money? Okay, well, let me give you money and take all the other stuff back. You know, they're like, oh, no, we want all that and money. It's like, oh, so let's redefine what cheap and generous is.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think the question closes the gap between what I'm doing or what I'm trying to do, attempting to do, and what the perception of what I'm doing is. I think it closes the gap. Yeah. So asking, I think, is good. And I know we're talking about dads, but I think that works in marriage. I think that works at work.
Yeah.
You know, I think it works in the community. Yeah. You know, I think if politicians asked more questions, then we'd be able to close the gap.
Mm-hmm.
You ran your whole platform, and you said you're gonna do all these things, and it doesn't look to me like you're doing them.
Yeah.
Right. But you like, I'm here fighting every single week trying to get, you know, and it's like, oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Maybe I should ask some questions, or you should ask me some questions or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it closes the gap for sure, though.
No, for sure. And I think asking questions in general is something that I really have worked hard to be consistent in as a father. Is like, we used to do question before bed.
Mm-hmm.
When my kids were younger, and question for bed was essentially me we had a whiteboard in our bedroom,
mm-hmm.
and throughout the day or maybe throughout the week, I would make a note of a question that I wanted to ask my kids so we could have a discussion around it. And I just remember doing that and how I think I learned from my kids and my kids learned from me in that moment, in those settings of us doing question before bed.
Yeah.
And I really feel like, and I still ask those questions like when we have our family meetings, like we still have family meetings even though my kids are now in high school and one of them is an adult. We still find ways to get together and kind of do those things and still have that moment of asking that question of like, what do you feel like I'm doing right as a father?
Mm-hmm.
Or where I'm missing out as a father? What could I be doing differently?
Yeah.
But I mean, I think we need to go back, not question before bed, but something to where we ask a relevant question, a question of the moment, and kind of continue to learn from my kids. You know what I'm saying? I really like that. So
it allows us to be more consistent. Like instead of trying to catch up when something bad happens or when something changes, it allows us to stay more in touch and more in tune along the way.
Yeah.
So if I'm asking you weekly and I can readjust weekly versus, you know, at the beginning of every school year, you know, then the corrections are easier to implement versus having to, you know, make big changes. I can make little changes along the way.
Yeah.
So that's really good. Didn't you used to do question of the week?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I need to go back to that. I used to do that on social media where I'd have a question of the, I think questions are powerful. There's a great book called, I think The Power of the Question or something like that. And so.
If there's not a book, there should be a book.
Yeah, there should definitely be a book. So let's jump into some of these responses that we got from fathers. Now, here is the question. Here is the question that I asked about 30 fathers, probably more than that. Didn't get a response from all of them, but I got quite a few. I got more than what I thought. I was thinking like if I got 25 back, I think I got almost 30.
Mm-hmm.
The question was, what's one practical thing you work to be consistent at to be the best father possible?
Right.
So we're going to go down the list. Any of them, I shared the list with you. Did any of them stand out to you?
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to just scroll from top to bottom.
Yeah.
I think this one was a guy who's a real estate investor here in Oklahoma City, I believe. He talked about connecting with his kids on purpose, like being intentional about connecting, like finding a way on purpose every single day to connect with kids. Like I think, again, it's very easy with the busy schedules that we push our kids to have. You know, it's like, do something, be involved in something. Don't just sit around now, do something. And it goes from being in one thing to being in 5 things. And then parents are running all across the city. And, you know, it's very easy for not only parents and kids to be busy, but I think as busy as we are, we have to be more intentional about connecting. And that connection can look different for different families.
Yeah.
For me, we have a family group text. We also have family group Instagram where we drop like memes and things, in there as a group. We also try to hang around our island at home and eat and snack and do things together. We also try to attend all of our family events together. So whether it's plays or soccer. And so finding ways to on purpose and intentionally connect. I don't think it has to be like a sit down deep conversation. It could be like, yo, how you doing? You doing okay? How was school today? Bet. How's your girlfriend? Everything going good? How's soccer? Like, did you finish that? Like, it could literally be just daily touches. Yeah. Some of them more deep than others, but I think doing it on purpose is really, really important. And so, like, I'll just piggyback on what he said. Like, I think that's valuable.
Yeah. No, that's Chauncey. Actually, man, Chauncey, is he in Virginia?
Team Virginia?
Yeah, I think he's Team Virginia.
Well, I just assumed that everybody was in Oklahoma.
That's okay. Just in case he listens, he'd be like, oh, Heady didn't even let him know I was from,
shout me out.
Here's Doug Lewis said, making sure they know that they can come to me with anything and that they won't be judged by me or blamed, but that I will listen and provide honest feedback, which, to be consistent in giving feedback across the board in any situation is really good, especially if it's good feedback. But I think people who are intentional about giving feedback, honest feedback, is so important to have those kind of people in your life.
Yeah.
And as a father, man, to be able to really be consistent in giving honest feedback. One, I think honest feedback requires you to be slow at times.
That's good.
Versus like, let me give it give me 24 hours. Let me think about that. Let me take that in for a moment. But I really love that Doug said that. Shout out to Doug. Doug's actually in Orlando, Florida.
He's in Orlando?
So, yeah.
I want to piggyback on Doug's real quick. By the way, I was at this community event, and it was last weekend, and it was hosted by JB, and it's talking about how to get gun violence down. And so people from New York and someplace in Texas and then out in LA, they came and talked about these long stretches of days they had without gun violence. Anyhow, one guy there was Muslim from New York, and because he was Muslim, he said veggie back because he didn't eat pork.
Oh wow!
So he didn't piggyback on nothing. He veggie back on everything. He was like, I want to veggie back on that. And he said it a couple of times, and he was like, I see people's faces.
So good.
He's like, because I'm Muslim, I don't eat pork. So I don't piggyback on nothing.
I'm veggie backing up in here.
So I want to veggie back on that and talk about the importance of pausing as parents. I think we get so I'm gonna speak for active parents, right? We get so eager and excited when our kids come to us with things that we feel like we have to have the answer without delay or pause. Like, ooh, that's easy. Like, because I'm the parent, I know the answer. And I don't think that, I think our kids will learn so much more by us being transparent and our lack of wisdom regarding certain things and being willing to discover those things together. So what does that look like? Ooh, I don't know. That's a tough one. I haven't had to deal with that. I don't know. What do you think? What's been your process? Like, what are people saying in your circles? Being able to just like be curious about something instead of making up something on the spot so that we can seem knowledgeable or wise.
For sure.
Now, I think there are some things that they're going to come to us with that we've lived, that we've talked about, that we've experienced. We have enough engagement with it that I can provide you an answer immediately. But I think there's value in saying that I don't know, that I'm willing to find out, and I'm willing to also discover and explore and evolve with you, because I think that shows like a human side that I don't know that a lot of kids get to see with their parents.
Yeah.
Like, they just see us as this. I was looking at this interview, and this young lady, she said, the reason you start seeing teenagers like connect with other adults or even older teens is because at some point in time you realize your parents really don't know everything. They really don't know everything, and in fact they making it up. And they just trying to like thrive. They trying to survive, with what they know. She was like, well, we go from like our parents because they know how to tell us to match our clothes and brush our teeth and wash our face and take Robitussin and Epsom salt and cough medicine and all that stuff. We think that because they are knowledgeable in what it's like to raise a 5-year-old or an 8-year-old, at some point in time, I'm coming to you with some information that you don't know. Yeah. And you want the respect of somebody who does know. Yeah. Like, but you don't. And so this is when you start seeing these kids going to all these other places trying to get this information because they're trying to find people who know. Mama, you don't know how to make money. You broke, we poor. So why would I ask you about money? Let me go out here and talk to some other people who making money. Who making money? Athletes, rappers, strippers, dancers, drug dealers. Like, they making money. Yeah. My homeboy over here, he got a job. You ain't got no job. What you gonna tell me about work? So it's like, it's very interesting. I think we have the opportunity to close the gap and improve relationship and connection when we speak on what we do know and then grow together in areas where we don't know. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I want to explore, I want to evolve and grow and change with you as we learn together through this process. Yeah.
No, that's good. Yeah, I think that in that us not knowing everything is something to where that's an opportunity for our kids to learn. Yeah. Like, I want my kids to know that I don't know everything because I don't want them to feel like they're supposed to know everything when they become parents. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, like, no, like, do not leave this house thinking I know everything. But what I think parents do well, and I think you learn this as you get older, is that you got to be willing to try sometimes. When you don't have the answer, you just got to kind of step out there and try something. And I think in our learning to do that, we also try to speed along telling our kids things that we really don't have the answers to. I agree. Because we teach ourselves, like, well, if I don't know the answer, I better try something because someone get in trouble. In that, I think what you also have to learn is, like, man, let me call Derrick. Derrick knows quite a bit about this particular thing. Yeah. Let's bring Derrick into this conversation. Yeah. Or go call, or now you have Google too, but that, I think, is also good for your kids to be able to reach out to people and learn when you don't know.
I wonder if that, like, how does that reach out? How is that impacted by, like, pride or, because, as a dad, when I hear other dads talk about some things, I feel like it's so rudimentary that I'm supposed to be doing that as a dad. Yeah. I'm a dad. I've been doing this dad thing for a long time. And you just said something that I don't do. And so instead of being like, yo, tell me how to do that, or, I'm going to take it. I'm going to go try to do it on my own. Yeah. When it would probably just be best if I'm like, yo, that's interesting. Like, how long you been doing that? Yeah. And I think that sometimes, when we make things up, when we're trying to step out there and do those things, this is where the pause comes in, right? And it's not to say that, like, I don't know, do we think that our kids are better with no information or the wrong information?
That's
as a parent.
Well, pride says we're just not going to let them know because we don't know. Exactly. I think that's more so than that.
But that's where wrong comes in, right?
Yeah.
So which one is it? If we had to pick between the two, are they better with the wrong information or no information?
Man, it's almost no information. You tell them the wrong information, they go out there and do it. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, that's just my immediate thought.
I had some mentees at Metrotech, and they told me these two things, and I had to, like, jump in. I felt like I was saving the day. He was like, yo, man. He said, do you know how to tell if a girl got an STD? And he was like, you stick your pinky finger in her ear, and if her earwax come out green, she dirty. I was like, what in the world? Who told you that? He was like, my big brother told me that. I was like, bro, you been walking around sticking your pinky finger. Just setting them up. Another thing they said, they was like, yo, so they hired me to do this mentor program, and part of the qualifications was we had to talk about safe sex practices. Yeah. And I was like, well, I don't feel qualified to lead that conversation, but I will start the conversation to let them know that somebody else is going to come in and talk to them about it. And so I was like, hey guys, we're sitting there. It's not what we're going to talk about today, but I got to let y'all know so that you can let your parents know. So if you don't want to do it, you don't have to be in here. But next week they're going to bring in somebody to talk about safe sex practices and whatever. And they was like, oh, we already got that down, Coach D. And I was like, oh, well, tell me what you think you know. And he was like, my big brother told me how to share condoms. And I was like, tell me more. He was like, so if you don't have one, he was like, it's cool. Just wait and flip one inside out. And I was like, wait a minute. Have you done this before? He was like, oh, yeah. Like, we just flip them inside out. And I was like, and so the question is, are they better with no information or the wrong information?
But I guess most of the time you don't know you're giving out the wrong information.
But I'm saying, like, so that, to me, that would benefit us as parents to, like, equip ourselves.
Yes.
And if I don't, well, that's true. Because if I feel like it's right, I'm going to say it with the confidence that it's right.
Because your parents told you that, or somebody told you that.
Somebody got it from somewhere.
I guess in that situation, it was the brother, right? That
felt confident.
Yeah. They felt confident, like, this is the way.
He was like, you got a barrier, bro, like, between you, and that's all we looking for is that barrier. And I'm like, but what about the other person? I got questions.
Yeah, that's questions.
So, so I think it's like, specifically as dads, I think that's probably stereotypical pride attached to not knowing.
Yeah.
And so when we're talking about intentionally connecting with our kids and taking a pause when we respond based on our lack of information or wanting to be right, I think there's a part of this machismo, this I gotta know because I'm the parent, and if I say I don't know, then that infringes on my authority or how my kids see me, which means they probably won't see me as an authority. They probably won't respect me. They probably won't value what I contribute outside of, like, food and water and housing. Like, and so based on that moment, we attach all these other things that may or may not be true when we could just pause and probably get more respect from saying, I don't know, let's find out together.
Yeah, no, for sure. For sure. I think so. I think that's the best way to do it.
Yeah.
But that's me. We may be giving that wrong information.
I think that's the best information. Hey, listen, and of course, I feel confident, right? it could be wrong, but I feel confident.
We feel really, really confident right now that is the best approach. And
just pause.
I think we're right. So let's go with another Doug. Did you have one?
Yeah, I had. I was thinking about Jason right there.
Jason.
Can we say last names?
Yeah.
Okay, Wilcox.
Okay.
Josh Wilcox. Okay. Sorry. And he talked about listening, right? And I think listening has been something that has been vital in the development of my relationships with my children. And sometimes it's listening with no answers, and it's not like the fake listening, like, for real, that's crazy. Oh, she's stupid. Like, it's not even that. It's like letting you know that I'm here, and so I'm asking questions that will eventually lead to either you uncovering the answer that I think is best, or you finding the best answer for the scenario.
Yeah.
And that's all me asking questions. And so it's like, oh, I didn't know that. Like, tell me more. Or what about this? Or what about this? What about this? And at the end, they did all the talking, I did all the listening, and I got all the information that I needed in order to have, like, this good, this solid perspective on where you are regarding that topic. Mm-hmm. So, like, listening to me, even though there was like a one-word response and everybody else, had some pretty lengthy ones, I think listening is really important. Because if you've established a relationship with your child and they're willing to talk, I want my kids to talk as much as they want to talk. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. As much as they want to. Let me put my phone down. Let me pause this TV. Let me close my laptop, because I know that there are children who don't speak to their parents. Yeah. And by me just letting you go, you give me access to all the things. It's like, oh, I wouldn't even known to ask about that. Yeah. But you giving it all to me. So tell me more. Continue. How do you feel about that? And so I think if we're in a place to where we're not so quick to offer suggestions or advice, I think there's value in asking questions and listening. Yeah. When they show up and they knock on the door of your bedroom, listen. When they shoot you a text, that's like, hey, how's it going? Like, they want to say something. So being in a place where we can listen, I think is really, really important.
No, I think that's good. Yeah, listening it gets you a long way down the road in building relationships, which I think, man, Doug Hacking said, and when you are stupid, quickly own it and fix it.
Yeah.
And so I think going back to the Will Smith situation, like a lot of people felt like that moment in his life was one that was not the smartest move, right? Mm-hmm. So quickly own that, and I think he came out immediately and kind of, well, not immediately, but I think a couple of days or whatever, kind of took some self-accountability with that. Now, some people may not feel like it was the best, but he did something. Mm-hmm. I think in that, you got to quickly own when you've stepped out of line. Right? Yeah, with your kids. So again, you want them to learn how to respond to things. So the best way to respond to something once you recognize that you messed up is to do it quickly.
But here's the thing: it's like, and so his son, right, immediately got online and talked about how proud he was of his dad.
Yeah,
I'm proud.
Yeah,
right.
Immediately.
But have you seen The Great Debaters with Denzel?
Yeah. It's a good movie.
There's a point in there where the preacher who was what's the guy's name? Anyhow, he's a preacher. He's driving his family somewhere. They end up hitting an animal. Keep in mind, this is in the South. This is, back in, 30s, 40s, 50s. I'm not sure what it was, 60s. And racial tensions are still high. And the guy he hits these two white guys, animal. And he gets out of the car. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do it. They're like, you're going to have to pay for it. He gives them a check worth more than the animal was worth. And then he goes to get in his car. He tells his son to stay in the car. And they say, well, you going to help us put this animal in the trunk? Like, you can't get away. Like, you in your clothes, but you about to get there. And so he's doing all these things at the time that he think is right.
Yeah.
He's trying to protect his family. And so he's not letting his pride swell up. He's trying to get everything he can do to get back to his house safely, to get out of this scenario. And his son despised him for it. Called him weak. You know what I'm saying? He's like, I'm literally trying to protect this family. Stay in the car. Let me handle these people so we can get back home safely. I don't know. Like, would Will's kids have looked at him the same way if he did not go on stage and slap Chris? Would that have been like, you a punk? And you didn't protect us. You didn't protect my mama. You let that man talk about her like she was a dog on national television. In fact, you laughed at it. You sat there next to my mama and laughed at this man while he did. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so that can mess with a man, with the father. You know, that feels like this is my role and I take it seriously.
Yeah.
Does he then go back and talk to his kids about the importance of being nonviolent and staying above reproach? And not being pulled by our emotions and not letting the words of others cause us to respond physically. Like, is that a learning point? Or do they look at it and be like, nah, son, you punked out. You a punk. Mm-hmm. You a punk. And because you did my mama like that, I know you definitely going to let people run up on us.
Yeah. Yeah, I think in those moments, again, I think sometimes we make a poor decision. But we got to follow back around and kind of trust our instinct at the time. Or hopefully you have people in your life that, and again, like if you don't own it quickly, right? If you mess up, you didn't own it quickly, but you owned it 2 weeks later because somebody came and told you. I think the important thing is coming back around and communicating that. Like, man, I should have owned this quickly.
Yeah.
I thought I did the right thing. So I think quickly is important. I think if you can do it quickly, immediately, do that. But if you found that you made that wrong move, and it was 3 weeks, a month, 6 months later.
Yeah.
Like, I've done some things that I messed up years ago.
Yes.
But come back and be like, you know what? I thought that was the right thing at that moment. You know, because, again, we can't all feel like we're at the same place in life.
Right.
And our knowledge and our maturity and these kind of things. And so It just varies. But that situation was really wild because his son immediately did give him kudos.
Immediately.
But then your dad now comes back around and says, hey, that was the wrong thing to do based on what he's saying publicly, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're saying, hey, I'm going to strip these things away from me, you're now saying what I did was wrong.
Yeah.
So then at the same time, like behind the scenes, I don't know what that looks like. Like Will was like, no, I'm glad I did. I taught him a lesson.
Mm-hmm.
But publicly, what I'm seeing is like he's saying now to his kids that was the wrong thing to do.
And so I think that's where I'm hung up specifically on Doug Hacking's thing. And I actually believe that Doug is right.
Yeah.
If you do something stupid, fix it.
Yeah.
Right. But I think that it's the stupid part, it's the fix it part, it's the right and wrong part that I think. And here's the thing, man. You know, I know what I don't like doing, what I prefer not to do, is take a scenario and then go down the slippery slope all the way to the bottom. Mm-hmm. Right? It's like I don't want to try to base the next 10 years off of a month or a day, even though it can happen. I just think of like what was Will slapping Chris wrong? Like, was it wrong? And was that a situation to fix?
Yeah. So are you saying like you're still at a place like, man, was that wrong?
I'm really struggling with it.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I think we just try to make these decisions in these silos. Like if my kid comes home, Ethan comes home and he got in a fight, and I asked him why he got in a fight, and I can understand why he chose to fight. How do I correct, or how do I father, or how do I, like, what do I do in that moment? Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, if he felt in the moment that the decision he made was the best one, do I then correct it and say, well, don't fight?
Yeah. I mean, in that situation, I think you definitely say, man, if you're in a situation where you got into a scuffle and you didn't see your way getting out of it, mm-hmm. yeah. But if it was like the person was 5 feet away from you and you ran up on that person versus walking away and addressing mm-hmm. it with some authority, mm-hmm. you know what I'm saying? It kind of depends on how you feel like you should best handle that situation. I think culturally kind of can be different.
Agreed.
You know, there's some cultural things there, I think. Faith things, mm-hmm. like your faith says that this is the way you handle it. Mm-hmm. So I think it's just going to be different for different people for sure.
And that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't insert yourself in the same scenario and be like, I would have done. And it's like, ow. But I mean, yeah, my jobs aren't like Will's whole career mm-hmm. is being impacted by a decision that he made as a husband.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me.
Yeah.
That's so like.
But that's now where that thing of the cancel culture, right? Is that what
thick,
that is?
Brother, it is thick.
I think that's kind of what that comes down to a degree, right? Right now, if you do anything in the culture, whoever the culture is, however many people, like, that's my thing. Is like, man, now does it have to be a certain amount of people before it's the culture?
The culture, right?
Yeah, like, does it need to be a 1.5 million?
Yeah,
or can it be 3 or 4 people who get on Twitter and make enough noise? You know,
but you can even be a part of a soul culture and not be predominant or primary, and still have enough influence to make noise where people are now. Like, I have a friend who whenever I say things like, hey, I'm gonna let you go, like, I'm gonna get off the phone, let me let you go real quick, her response is, you can't really let me do anything. It's like, I guess I'll allow you to. And like, no, you don't really allow me to do anything. And so to me, it's like, I'm just part of language. Like, I'm trying to get off the phone. Bye. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm trying to get off the phone. So I know I'm not letting you do anything. But it's like when we have people that draw attention to even the small things, then that culture becomes influential because people carry those things in different places.
Yeah.
And so for me now, I've been trying to not say out of this one occasion because I don't know who else I could potentially offend. I'm like, all right, man, I'm gonna get off this phone instead of being like, all right, yo, bro, I'm gonna let you go.
Yeah,
It's easy.
Yeah.
It's easy. So I'm saying, I think even the smallest cultures being carried by a few people, right? It's like paper straws. I hate paper straws. Give me a plastic straw.
Yeah.
That's gonna not dissolve in my drink. That I can use more than one. Like that I can get refills on and not have to get another paper straw. But somebody somewhere said something about paper straws to where it's a subculture that's infiltrating all these different things. And so I don't know that there's necessarily a size like what establishes the culture. I think it just has to be, I don't know, prevalent enough to be a blimp on the radar and get the right people to say it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I definitely think there's some aspect to a size.
You think so?
Yeah. I think there, or you have enough connections to an audience that's going to rally behind you. And so now, even though that one person is feeling a certain way, people are going to own that with you because they believe in you or they care for you. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there may be some things that people do, like they really don't think it's that big of a deal, but because this person said something, I'm going to rally behind that person. Yeah,
and I could also see numbers from an economic perspective as well.
Yeah.
If like 10,000 people don't buy your stuff, it's like, okay, they just upset.
Yeah.
50,000, it's like, wait, what's happening?
Yeah.
100,000, it's like, okay, now for real, like, somebody loop me in, and so you start.
Who about to get cut?
Exactly. How come nobody said nothing, right? Well, boss, it was only 10,000, now it's 100.
Yeah.
What good a rapper? So I can see that, like even with music and boycotting, like certain stores, and you start hitting people's bottom line, then it's definitely a numbers issue.
Yeah,
definitely,
for sure.
Man, let's keep this thing going.
Yeah. Let's get a couple of more, just because of time's sake.
Yep.
Who you got?
We already talked about that. They can talk to me, being present. They can talk to me, being honest. Availability. As we were talking, it was like some of these kind of fit the same theme.
Yeah, some of we could have done it theme wise.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like some of them definitely fall. One that I saw was Clint Smith. Keeping a relationship is key. Like I want to consistently do things that allow for me to keep a relationship with my children.
Yeah.
And he says in that he wants that to happen because he wants them to always know that they can come talk to him about anything.
Yeah.
And so, but keeping a relationship, I think even goes more so than them being able to come and talk to me about anything. But just staying connected, like what you were saying, like in that thing of like, man, they're gonna still come over for dinner.
Yeah.
They're gonna still come and just hang out with me. Sometimes we don't even have to talk, just be around each other.
Yeah.
Like, and so I think early when you do that, I think it's important because you'll find there. I think there's two kind of people that I've seen who, and I may be more like, well, my grandfather didn't really hang out with, the people, the fathers in my life didn't hang out with me all the time, so it's not a big deal if my kids and I don't spend a whole bunch of time together.
Right.
But then there's some like, my dad never spent time with me, so I'm trying to spend all the time I
can.
All the time,
yeah.
I'm going to every game. I'm going to, you know what I'm saying? And so I think there's two different kinds of responses based on how you were fathered or raised,
Right.
And so, but I love the idea of, I think it's important that we do things consistently that allow for us to keep a relationship.
Yeah, these two, I think, resonate with me from Waylon Cubitt and Larry Clayton, talking about just being available from a sense of like there's this unconditional component of it. And so Waylon's talking about, he says at the end, they can't earn any more of my love, but they also can't destroy an ounce of it. They can't earn more, they can't destroy an ounce of it. And then Larry talks about always saying that I love you no matter what happens, just saying I love you. And it reminds me of my son just kind of going through this this phase of performance anxiety, as it pertains to being a child. And
performance for you or just in general?
In general, but specifically for parents.
Okay.
And we started noticing it where he would say something and then we provide some feedback or some pushback, and then he would just agree with us. And I had to get to the point to where I was like, yo, and I'm dead serious. Like, this happened it might have been a month and a half ago. As we're wrapping up school, his grades are looking a little sketchy, and he just has all this anxiety. And so I go in his bedroom, and I lay on his bed with him, and I'm looking at him face to face, and I'm like, bro, you can't disappoint us. Mm-hmm. It's impossible. We're not gonna love you any less. There's nothing that you can do that's going to make us love you any more. Like, you are literally living at the max that we can love you, right? There's nothing you can do. There's no grade you can make. Like, we're going to be excited about your progress and as you mature and find things that you're interested in. But there's nothing you can do that's going to make us stop loving you. Mm-hmm. And as I'm saying this, like, he starts crying. And I started crying because, I'm a crier. Mm-hmm. And we just got to this point to where he was like, I really needed to hear that. Mm-hmm. Because I understand all the work that you and mom do to invest in the things that we want to do and the things that we want to be. And anytime we say we want to do something, y'all make sure it happens. And anytime we want to try something new, you make it happen. And I just feel like we owe y'all. I mean, you don't owe us nothing. You owe yourself. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't want you not becoming something because you didn't try or because you got too many things on your plate. And so you're doing all things okay and nothing really, really well. Bro, listen, you cannot disappoint us. There's nothing you can do that's going to make us stop loving you. And I think that's so important because that frees our children up from having to perform and like, ooh, look what I can do. Daddy, look what I did. Mama, look what I did. Like, it frees them up to pursue the things that they enjoy and to be the most natural version of themselves so that they can grow and evolve in that way. Yeah. Instead of just trying to, like, get attention and accolades and like I identify with that. Yeah. Right. My dad was just like, yo, like, you killing it, man. And sure, you made more tackles and sure you joined more choirs and sure you did. But I still love you, my son. All that other stuff is sprinkles. And so wanting to have that relationship with my mom caused me to, like, try to perform. Right. Mom, come to my games. Mom, look at what I did. Mom, look what I did. And that has bled over into being an adult where, I'm looking at jobs and I'm looking at employers and I'm looking at clients and I'm looking at friends and I'm like, yo, look at what I can do. Look what I can do. And thriving off that affirmation. It's like, yo, son, I don't want you to have no parts of that. I want you to be able to just show up. And I think that's what parents can do more of. Mm-hmm. Right? How can we let our kids know that all the love that I have to give, you got it right now? Like, there's nothing you can do to earn more or destroy it by doing something. Like, I may be disappointed that you made that decision because I know you're better than the decision that you made, but, like, I love you. Yeah. Literally, I love you. Yeah. Hug you, squeeze you, still got food in the fridge, still wash your clothes. Like, I love you. Yeah. And there's absolutely, and I hate saying this because it's so cliche, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. I hear people say it all the time, but it's real.
Yeah, no. That is so real. And I think that's the most important thing as a father. Like, just letting your kids know that you love them regardless. You don't have to show up and perform in any kind of way. No. And however we can do that consistently, man, I think it's great. And for me, I think that's a great place just to stop, and we'll have all these other fathers' responses in the show notes. But, man, I'm excited about fatherhood and really coming along with other fathers like yourself, Derrick, and be an encouragement to one another to be the best fathers that we possibly can. And off this list, I hope some fathers can be inspired. There's 3 things that I love seeing is people learn, be inspired, and then connect. Mm-hmm. And that's what we can do around this fatherhood thing. And so, ladies and gentlemen, man, let's give Derrick a big round of applause for being with us today. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, and so thank you, as normal, for hitting that play button for another episode of the Heady Coleman Podcast. I've been out the loop for a little while, so I don't have all my
you got it down, though, man.
Wordings down.
You got it down. It feels good.
No. And so, but as always, ladies and gentlemen, go win.